A reading from the letter of Paul to the Ephesians. Brothers and sisters, you have heard of the stewardship of God's grace that was given to me for your benefit, namely, that the mystery was made known to me by revelation. It was not made known to people in other generations, as it has now been revealed to his holy apostles and prophets by the Spirit, that the Gentiles are co-heirs, members of the same body, and co-partners in the promise in Christ Jesus through the gospel. The word of the Lord.
Our second reading on this Epiphany Sunday is taken from the letter of St. Paul to the Ephesians. We have been reflecting on the theme of following the light of Christ. In the first reading from the prophet Isaiah, Jerusalem has a vocation. Jerusalem has received the light of God so that this light could be manifested to all the nations. Thanks to the light of God that is brought to Jerusalem, now many nations will get to know God. So the light of God is given to Jerusalem not for its own consumption, not as something that it will hide for itself, but it is to be radiated to all the nations. So Jerusalem will serve as an instrument of the revelation of God to other people. In the second reading, it is no longer a city, it is no longer a people, but an individual person, St. Paul. He claims that he has received a revelation. He had experienced an epiphany. The risen Lord has appeared to him. And in Jesus Christ, the risen Lord, the plan of God has been manifested to him. He was already a zealous follower of the law. He was a Pharisee by training. So he has had some sort of preparation. But then the moment comes when the fulfillment of all that he has learned and studied now visits him in person. An epiphany of light, the risen Lord coming to him, revealing to him what the plan of God really means and how it is fulfilled. So, the light of God in the risen Lord comes not just to a city, Jerusalem, but to a person, Paul. But we see the same dynamics in St. Paul, specifically through his preaching. The light of Jesus, the light of his resurrection, the light of his gospel will now radiate to all the peoples. How? Through his apostolic mission, through his preaching. As the one sent by the risen Lord to the Gentiles, he brings the good news that the salvation of Jesus Christ is not meant only for the chosen people Israel, but it is for all, for the Gentiles. The light of Christ is for all. It is offered to all. Remember the universal reach of the light of God as already indicated in the first reading. It is the same universal horizon that St. Paul talks about. The light of Christ, the saving power of Christ, the love of the Father to save all of us is meant for all. The Gentiles, the nations are all embraced by the love of Christ. Now, how will people see the light of the salvation of Jesus Christ? If in the first reading it is through the light of the city Jerusalem, here in the second reading, it is through the apostolic ministry of St. Paul. So, my dear brothers and sisters, like Israel, like Jerusalem, we should radiate the light of Jesus Christ through our witness. But here, in the second reading, we're also being invited. Announce the gospel. Go as an apostle in your ministry, in your proclamation of the word. You are the bearer of light, so that many people will see Jesus through your apostolic work and preaching. Seeing the light, they will rejoice at the fact that we are all called to be heirs, co-heirs with Israel of the inheritance from the Father, the inheritance called salvation. Go out. In your missionary work, you spread the light of Christ.